there, and welcome back to another episode of me relating too much to a slice-of-life anime. Today, we're going to explore the many pitfalls of adulthood and why we all suck so much at it. Roll intro! Now, I'm a young person myself, and according to my friends, I'm very ambitious and loyal. According to my grandmother, I'm gonna be on the next Time magazine cover. According to myself, I'm just an anxious yet overconfident asshole. In a typical turn of events, I graduated with a major I can't use and a degree I've ended up hating. I bemoan being lonely despite actively avoiding making plans with friends, and I'm working a passion job I know I can't make a living out of in the long term. I am my younger self's definition of a person who doesn't have their shit together and yet remain confident that, somehow, someway, it'll all work out in the end. This is all what makes me the exact target demographic for the series we're talking about today, Wave Listen to Me, or in the Japanese, Nami Kiitekure. If we turn to our friend Wikipedia, we can find out that the story is about Minare Koda, a floor manager at a restaurant who, after a bad breakup, drunkenly rants about her relationship troubles to a random dude. But the next day, her drunken rant is on the radio for everyone to laugh at, and the random dude, who's actually the director of the station, offers Minare a job as a radio host. Sweet deal, right? It sure would be, except that Minare can't make a living off radio and she has no idea if that's what she really wants to do in life. But she also knows that the job that currently pays the bills isn't her dream career either. But wait a second, did I just say radio? In an era where all cars have at least a measly aux cord, it's hard to see young people relate to Minare's wish of becoming a radio celebrity. Nowadays, Minare would have more success hosting a podcast than a radio show.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Yet that never detracted from my enjoyment of the show. It's similar how knowing jack shit about shogi never stopped March Comes In Like a Lion from becoming one of my favorite shows of all time. Radio is fascinating to me in the same way a relic is fascinating to archaeologists. I like old stuff, and I like young people being interested in old stuff. I don't know anything about radio itself, but the premise is enough to get me interested. But what really sells this show is not the radio background or any technical aspect, but the strength of its main character. My young self would look at Minare, and my current self if I'm being honest, and think, well, this predicament could have been avoidable. Why not give up the possibility of a radio career if it doesn't pay? Career satisfaction doesn't pay the bills, the salary does. And while we're at it, why date shady assholes who are walking red flags? Why not get a more satisfying job to begin with so you don't have to face this difficult choice? Every character in Wave Listen to Me has made some interesting choices to get where they are. Minare, for one, has left home at an early age to stick it to her parents and is now scrambling to figure something out. Chuya Nakahara, no, not the one from Bungo Stray Dogs, or the poet, the manager and head chef of Voyager, fawns over Minare and acts as her own personal doormat, preferring this somewhat demeaning position to being completely ignored by her. Mizuho, the girl who lets Minare crash at her apartment, has big dreams but is too scared to pursue them at full speed out of fear she'll suck at it. And lastly, Madoka, the radio show host who resents extroverted people for expressing themselves in ways she wishes she could. Ouch, that one is different. Sometimes I hate those characters for what they do, but it's a tongue-in-cheek reaction because I've been angry at myself and my friends for doing the exact same things. Minare is 26 years old, so she's a little bit older than I am. She's harsh, opinionated, and foul-mouthed. I'm pretty sure the voice inside my head is Minare's more often than not. When it comes to Minare's way of navigating life, it seems like the only parameters she follows are... Keep yourself Minare is a loose cannon in the same way my mind overthinks every bad decision I've made, except hers is out loud and infinitely more continuous. Minare is the kind of woman who does behind-the-scenes talk on the scene. The sheer amount of monologues she has is amazing, and she's hilarious in each and every single one of them. Her voice is pitch perfect for the role, and screw the people who said the voice actress wasn't good enough for the industry. And Minare has the kind of personality I like to pretend to have. So, this being a serious review, what genre would I put this series in? Seinen? Josei? It's hard to fit Wave into a single genre. While there's definitely a lot of humor in the show, at its core it retains a pretty serious message. I should call this a josei, but it's very different from many other josei I've read in that it handles more adult issues rather than teenage issues with more graphic detail. So, if you've seen the show already, or actually even if you haven't seen it, from what I've just told you about Minare, you know that whether you like her character can make or break the show for you. But think about it for a second. If you like Minare, what do you like about her? The fact that she has no filter? Maybe the fact she's scatterbrained in an almost cute way? Her ability to talk incessantly to fill the silence that would otherwise flood your psyche?
それに引き換え渡しときたら麦茶と偽って極限まで薄めたインスタントコーヒーを客に出すしどうしてもペアにならない合計靴下がタンスの中に10足以上あるし
And if you don't like Minare, there's also plenty not to like about her. Again, she's loud and talks incessantly. She's often late to work, gets blackout drunk, causes a scene more often than not, and she takes advantage of people when she can.
かつて私が嘘をついたことがあっただろうか
記憶にあるだけで17回は疲れてますけど
何時何分何フレーム目だ
Culturally speaking, it's interesting to me that Minare is Japanese. Or rather, the fact she is Japanese is what makes her main character material. If Minare was an American, then she'd be just another person on the street. A loud, scatterbrained, somewhat egoistical, but ultimately nice person. Yeah, the stereotypical American.
Fuck, why don't you two buy a fucking hot dog from me, Mr. Kohei? Oh, fuck you very much.
Hey, what the fuck? You got a fucking problem? I'll knock your fucking head off.
But because Minare is Japanese, her entire personality is an event. People are drawn to her and can't really explain to themselves why. The way she acts isn't just a little quirky anymore, it's fucking hilarious if you consider her context. No, really, imagine a quiet Japanese park. Retirees strolling around. Maybe they go into a restaurant to have their favorite curry dish. And then, you hear your waitress's voice drunkenly threatening to kill her ex on the radio as she storms out of the store cursing the entire time. Now, if you're that Japanese old lady, you're horrified. But if you're an onlooker, this is hysterical. And in a way, visually, she reminds me of another American-like character that people were inexplicably drawn to. Onizuka Eikichi! Really, if you put some makeup on, those two would be siblings. They also have the perfect balance of a comically absurd yet down-to-earth personality that keeps you in a limbo of wanting to be them when they're at their best, or be anything but them when they're at their worst. How does the average Japanese person react to someone like Minare? Well, since I'm not Japanese, I can't really tell you. But in the manga, we get a little glimpse of one Japanese person's feelings about people like Minare. I'm talking about chapter 25 to be exact. Most of Minare's relationships with other characters in the manga and anime don't run very deep. Most characters hardly have a reason to help Minare, and she really doesn't return most of the favors others do for her. From a writing standpoint, showing Minare's relationships to be rather shallow could be seen as a negative thing. The whole show then rests on Minare's personality, and everything else in the background blends together into a nice water marble. This isn't helped by the fact that there's no clear plot structure, and oftentimes things happen so quick that you have no time to process anything. And this is why I love it. I'm a professional complainer too, and I can relate to Minare a lot. I have 2 close friends now, but I didn't have any before that. I floated through life just fine, having relatively shallow relationships with classmates and coworkers, just like Minare. I also felt like life was moving far too fast for me to figure out what the fuck I was doing, and I used strange humor to cover up my insecurities and confusion. And wouldn't you know it, my life is also a long series of seemingly random events that appears to have no point. What I'm trying to say here is that Wave blends 2 unusual genres together: fast-paced comedy and the traditional Japanese art of making movies where, quote-unquote, nothing happens. It's too eventful to fall into the latter category and too unusual in the reality it presents to be a traditional slice-of-life series. Because, as I've sadly noticed, real life doesn't seem to follow the hero's journey arc. It just happens. It just kicks you in the face at random times, like it kicks Minare in the face at random times. Huzzah! Minare's reactions to life punching her in the face are what made this series worth watching to me. Minare is sick and tired of her parents, she packs up and leaves. Minare needs to somehow make a living, she gets a job she hates. Minare ends up being broadcast on radio and decides she might like to do that for a living, she just does it. To someone who may not have consumed as many slice-of-life anime as I have, this may seem like normal adult behavior. But in the world of anime, it is not. In a virtual world where adults have the emotional maturity of toddlers paralyzed by fear, Minare's ability to take risks in order to get shit done is downright groundbreaking. If you don't know what I mean, take a look at another anime from the same season.
で、どこ行ってたの？
しなこのアパートに行ってた。あ、いや、つまりあいつが風邪ひいて熱出してたから。でもそんなことバカ正直に言うこ
adults. Great success. Hashtag relatable if you're a young adult mentally stuck in elementary school. That being said, this is a very niche show. It really is, because it centers around this one character that you either love or hate, and she's just a regular person. And it's hard to put this show into a genre because even for the genres it does somehow fit with, the show doesn't really execute it in a traditional way. And if you're too young, you might think Minare is dumb and doesn't have her shit together. And if you're too old and suffer from hindsight revisionist memory, you'll think Minare is a dumb youngster. And if you're in Minare's shoes, then you better have some self-deprecating humor, or this show will feel like that moment when you accidentally turn on your front camera and see how gross you look for a moment.
なんなんだこの更年期のごとき肌は。
I'm not doing a great job of selling this to you, am I? Oh, I know! The author of the manga Hiroaki Samura also wrote Blade of the Immortal and a bunch of eroguro work to show he's not afraid of showing ugly realities. There you have it, go and watch the show now. Bye. Bye!